Hello everyone and welcome back to Safari Mack Explores North America. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're still hanging out in Umiak, Alaska, near Barrow, which is pretty close to the region of the Arctic Circle, hanging out with the snowy owl, or known by the Latin name of Bubo scandiacus. So if you're ready to continue on with the hunt of this beautiful creature, we'll get started. But as always, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for content on how you can put conservation into your everyday life. And if you have questions about animals, or if there's an animal that you want me to do in the future, all you gotta do, just send me an email, which you will always find the link to down in my description below. But if you're ready, let's get started with the wild things. So, believe it or not, ornithologists have been able to use a kind of technique in helping to identify the sex and certain individuals of owls on their wings. However, this is considered to be, it's not really foolproof, but it is considered to be the most reliable way of identifying owls, especially when studying them out in their natural habitat. Now, if you remember last week, I told you where they were. I showed you exactly where they were in terms of their habitat, right? So you might think maybe a snowy owl hanging out in Great Britain at a wizarding school, just to be funny. A snowy owl in Britain might seem a bit out of place, right? Actually, it may not be at all. Here's a really wild thing for you. So there's a phenomenon that's said to take place once every 3 or 4 years or so called an eruption. Not eruption like a volcano, but it's spelled IRRUPTION. Eruption, which is where hundreds of birds will go a little further beyond their normal where they go usually down south, and will actually occupy a different area for a while. That is until it's time for them to go back up to home. So this has actually allowed them to spread pretty far. So Britain, some have been seen in France, some have been seen around the New York area. It's pretty impressive when you come to think about it. So it can change the population density, especially in a wintering environment. But it is impressive to see that very rare animal that you don't see every day occupy maybe in your own backyard, right? Now we have to look into their problems as well as their challenges that they face. Currently, the snowy owl is listed as vulnerable here on the endangered species list, or the labeling of animals where they stand today. Yet nowadays, by ornithologists or scientists that study birds, they're beginning to think that maybe that, unfortunately, might not be the case. If anything, they could actually now be labeled as endangered, because unfortunately, as I said last week, the conditions into where they're living and where they're going, it's not exactly the easiest to track, and so now some ornithologists think that they're actually having a bit of a more difficult challenge than we originally anticipate. For example, climate change might be starting to reduce their habitat availability as well as their food sources, like the lemmings. Remember what I said last week? If there's not enough lemmings, then owls won't even make the attempt to breed at all. Because for them, why would you raise children if there's not enough food to keep them fed and healthy? Even problems such as wind turbines and even windows have been posing as a big problem, especially for a species that is migratory. See, problem is, hundreds of birds unfortunately have been killed by wind turbines on wind farms, as well as die from collision in glass as they migrate now, unfortunately, through unfamiliar territory, especially like the city regions. See, if you think about it, you're that little bird that's flying right towards that thing of trees until, oopsie, it's not a grove of trees, but something that ultimately kills you. So it is a major challenge. And so now we gotta start asking ourselves, how can we save the snowy owl? So this bird is important for the Arctic in terms of being predators for lemmings as well as other animals. So how can we save them? Now, normally I would say, obviously greener choices can help reduce the climate change issue, right? Or they can't stop it, but they can slow it to a degree. Yet, what we need to do in this kind of term, we need to maybe minimize the largeness of these solar farms to make it a little more safer for migratory species. And another great conservation tool that cities have been using, especially in the northern regions, to help migratory birds, not just owls, but other species like cardinals and such, they put these little dots on the windows, even glass windows, and this has actually been helping to reduce bird mortality during migration season, which is still going on right now across our nation and mostly in the northern hemisphere, all across the world. However, in terms of actually being able to help, even this is not really enough. In terms of helping these creatures, unfortunately, we do not seem to know too much yet as to what else needs to be done to save this species from extinction. So right now, according to the United States Geological Survey and National Wildlife Federation, they quote, research is needed on the population ecology of this species, and, perhaps more important, management goals must be directed towards public education, emphasizing the value of snowy owls. So only by taking the time to learn about these creatures and putting in more effort to study these creatures, especially in areas where it's not exactly the easiest to study them, that's how we can make bigger progress in keeping this species alive for the next 100 years, and really for as long as humanity will continue to be on the planet. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining me last week and for this week for looking into the lives of the snowy owl. But now we need to prepare ourselves to take flight as we go off with one of our next animals through the last frontier state, Canadian geese. But until then, this is Safari Mack, and I'll see you all out there.